Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Forest Janny hate thread. For stories and anecdotes about having to deal with park rangers or the Forest Service. Ever since mountain lions have moved back into my area, I have to get a lecture from some snot-nosed park employee about not hiking alone and that cougar attacks can occur. I have nobody to hike with, and you aren't stopping me.
I have some real howlers dealing with Irish in real-life Jannies. I will just green text what happened to me last week. Bad day deer stalking, decide to pack it, in check on some trail cams I left pointed at a buzzard nest instead. Get beeped at by an unmarked car. Flashes police lights, so pull over. Fat little guy works me over asking where I am going. Checks every license I have. Clearly thinks I am a poacher. Explain to him what I want. That the road we are on only leads to a trail where nothing but sheep and my buzzards live. Just repeats himself and says I'm disrespectful. Walks off in a huff and gets back in his hoopty mid-2000s Ford saloon. I shrug and continue. An hour in, start to see fog lamps out of the corner of my eye. The little guy has been trailing me for an hour. I have to top up my tank and take a piss, so I decide to pull over and make him drive up to me like an adult. 15 minutes later, he revs up the increasingly poor road surface, beet red face. You get back in and go where you're going. I know what you're at and I've plenty. He vigorously patted his car's hood, clearly meaning his window wiping liquid, which was odd because I would have thought petrol would be the concern here. Drive on with Fatty as my road buddy for another 30 minutes. Arrive at Buzzard Bro spot, find that I forgot to remove the caps on 2/3 of my cams, and the third one was knocked over. But still caught Mama Buzzard flying stuff into her nest in 4 OK pics. Wonder where Ranger Friend went. 30 minutes down the trail. See him, arms folded. Fat bottom deliberately planted on the bonnet of his shitty ex-Guardy car, ignoring me like my baby daughter when she is sulky. Screw that gobshite. Aw, Jesus. He will be here all night. Maybe he had a bad day. Pulled over. Have to drive him home. Not to the nearest Guardy, Irish police station, or nearest petrol station, but his actual house. He was quite adamant. How do people like this have a job?
Recently got kicked out of a valley by Forest Jannies. Only caught us when some of our group stopped by a shelter and met an old man there, whom we had never seen before but who knew our every move from the moment when we entered the valley. The Forest Jannies had been looking for us for a day, however the Forest Jannies couldn't find us. Why? We didn't have a fire. We are outdoorsmen and as such know how to avoid forest fires. Now we know how to avoid Jannies too. Be me 20 years ago. Hiking in the Lassen wilderness by myself. Deep in a woods, been on the trail for about 4 hours. Hear something behind me. Turn around. Holy shit, oh shit. A mountain lion is running right at me. I managed to get my gun out of the holster. Unload all 6 rounds in the cylinder at the cat. It turns around and runs, makes it about 40 feet and dies. I'm shaking from the adrenaline when I hear someone up the trail yell out. What's the shooting about? It's a park ranger. Oh great. Turned out pretty chill. Killing a mountain lion in California is a felony offense. This ranger saw it was obviously self-defense and didn't want to deal with the paperwork. Asked me to help him move the lion off trail and deep into the woods where no one would find it. Didn't even ask to see my ID or ask my name. Ranger bro had my back.
Hike in 10K to a site with 2 buds. Their first time backpacking. On the second day, 6 boomers set up at the site right next to us. One of them yells at us to be quiet while I'm chopping wood. It's like 3 p.m. Ignore him. Hang up food in garbage bags. About 20 feet up. Wake up to a park ranger on site. Apparently the boomers called the park office and said our fire was too big. Total bull. Garbage bag was ripped open and had scattered some granola bar wrappers around. Squirrels got at it. Fined $100 for improper waste storage. This is why I don't site camp anymore.
In the Olympic National Forest. We park and hike out 2 kilometers to the coast. No hiking or overnight permit because we forgot cash and don't have room in our gear. Go north up the coast and it's reservation land. South it's Nat Forest land, so we go south and spend the night. It's a good time. We see creepy, unafraid deer, a seal lion who just wants to be left alone, a shark carcass, and 8 jillion flies. Coming back, We overshoot the beach trailhead back to the parking lot, so we have to hike back south a few hundred yards to find the beach trailhead, and a native Indian park ranger is waiting in the trees for us. Asks us what we were doing on reservation lands without a permit. We didn't even make it to reservation lands. We say we overshot the trailhead, but spent the night south of the trailhead. He clearly has a bone to pick with me, so he writes us a fraudulent ticket for it, not even checking if we have a hiking permit for the rest of the park. Asks me loads of invasive questions and acts like I'm trying to get the drop on him, and whirls around when I try to look at a map next time, always keeping me facing him. So he's king douchebag. I did pay the $75 fine later, like the tool I am.
My experience is that rangers are very reasonable people, paid to deal with a large number of entitled and ignorant assholes. Every week without fail, some asshole leaves a fire burning near a trailhead, tries to bury trash instead of carrying it out, does damage to trails attempting to mud through them for fun, or poses a hazard of some kind to other park users with weapons, syringes, or snares. None of these assholes respond well to being caught. Most feel entitled to do these things in the first place. Some are aggressive. A trail runs near my property, and I am constantly subjected to random gunfire, trespass, litter grass fires by roadsides, Bluetooth speakers, all manner of off-road vehicle bullshit. It's not even a proper trail, it's just the access road to the trailhead.
I got forest jannied a couple days ago for the first time. I had gone out west to collect sculpins and found none, even though I nailed the habitat for them. Anyways, I only saw like one dace that was too deep to get, so I casted a few lines for fun and went to my car after getting nothing. So I'm packing my stuff, and this big ass truck comes up to me, and a big forest Janny comes out and starts probing me with questions like crazy, and I am completely clueless. Well, apparently some places are fly fishing only, which is dumb and also kinda based because it officially makes fun of fly fishermen. Fortunately, the guy told me a few pointers and let me off. He also said that I better watch myself because apparently that can be criminal. State laws can be idiotic.
I've only had one interaction with a ranger. On a motocamping trip. Next stop is the only park with camping within 40 miles. Have to camp at a site, but no reservations. First come, first served. Spring, peak season. Plan to get there at 5 p.m, should just maybe get a spot. If not, should have enough daylight to grab a motel in the next town before dark. The bike breaks down. Torrential rain rolls in. Manage to limp the bike into the park after dark. Mudding in the rain and the dark down each road to check for an open site. Obviously no sites left. Find a clearing down a side road and just set up my hammock and go to sleep. I'm done with this day. Ranger truck wakes me up at first light. Here we go. I explain the situation. He's a bit annoyed at first, but I make a good case on how what I did was reasonable given the conditions. It probably helped that I was solo and it got pretty cold. He asks me if I'll be able to get to town, and I say that I'll manage. Wishes me luck and gets back in his truck. Now I just stick to backpacking, much less stressful.
We don't have rangers where I live, but we have fishing license inspectors. I have been fishing for 30 years and I have 2 stories to tell. First story happened in 2016 when I didn't have a smartphone yet. I was fishing with my 6 friends, and suddenly out of the bushes jumped this unpaid 10+ years younger fishing inspector, and he tried to do some sort of commanding, forceful voice like he had just watched Cops, the TV series. He ordered us all to show our licenses, but mine was in my car and I did not have a smartphone. Naturally, the 20-something started yelling to my face that I'm under arrest until I showed my license, while all my friends were laughing at him. He walked me back to my car, and I bet all that time he was making a finger pistol behind my back. He told me I was cleared and then just disappeared back into the bushes. What an asshole. Other story was when I met a local drunk hillbilly while at work, but I don't feel like writing the whole story. Our dude was poaching fish while drunk and I saw him, and the local fishing inspector saw us. Next day dude comes to kill me and I call the cops and he backs away. 6 months later I testify he tried to kill me and I can't never ever go there ever again. Those were my 2 only occasions where I have dealt with fishing license inspectors.
This happened quite some time ago, and I was just a wimpy, socially awkward kid back then. Cold winter, -15 Celsius. For my area, at least. Really was into survival and wanted to prove to myself that I could light a fire with just a fire steel during the coldest day of winter. Biked to the woods, grabbed a cable saw and started cutting off a dead tree. Saw broke. Pull out my tomahawk and start chopping. It got cold, so I put on my ear flaps on my ushanka so that I couldn't hear a thing. Made some shavings, obviously didn't catch a spark. Like 15 minutes go by after I pull out my tomahawk. 2 forest Jannies stand behind me, looking directly at me. Get scared. They say something but can't hear anything. Take off my hat and they are saying that I downed a tree or something. So I show them that the claim is bull because the tree I was chopping was already downed by the wind. They accuse me of stealing wood. I explain to them that I just wanted to start a fire. They get confused by the answer and say I'm a pyromaniac. Show them the fire circle. Ask me if I wanted to grill a deer. No, sir. Told me to leave and never return because next time they'll take away my wood-cutting tools. That was my last negative Forest Janny experience. Since then, I've learned to be more stealthy, and that fire steels work poorly during winter, at least with normal tinders like birch bark. But to this day, I regret not standing up for myself. Oh well, if you're going to take anything out of this, it should be that axes are trash when you're trying to not get caught. Invest in a saw, and don't cover up your ears.
I've had exactly one negative experience with a ranger. Every other one has been positive. Be in Alabama Hills. Get there late at night, a somewhat busy weekend. See a clearing beside the road with tire tracks and a fire ring. Think cool, we can camp here and not have to start a new fire ring. Wake up in the morning, get some pictures of Mount Whitney. Janny rolls up, slams his gearshift in park, stomps out of his truck.
You guys aren't in a campsite. You need to leave.
Look back at where we're camped. Sure, it looks like a campsite.
Sure looks like one. There's a fire ring and everything.
Well, it's not. Stomps around the car.
You guys crushed this plant. It's probably not going to make it now.
There's a dead creosote stump cut flush with the ground 3 inches under one tire.
You guys aren't paying attention. Alabama Hills is getting loved to death. And now this plant's probably dead.
This plant has definitely been dead for quite some time. Dude keeps talking for like 5 minutes straight about land use, conservation stuff, tells us to go stay in the built-up campground, for a fee of course. Not along. We haven't done anything wrong, so he can't really give us a ticket. Camping is allowed throughout Alabama Hills, not just in designated campsite clusters. Clearings they don't want people camping in are blocked off with signs. This clearing had none, which is why we picked it. Eventually he leaves. Very ranger-friendly friend calls him annoying when he's gone. End up in an annoyed mood for a few hours. Get buzzed by low-flying F-15s, which was neat. Pack the car up and have a fun time checking the place out. End up at the maintained campground anyways because our guts disapproved of our lunches. Take turns going to the restroom in a kaibo with high mountain winds blowing freezing sewer air through the seat. I'm assuming he had a bad day dealing with some Instagrammers or something. But tact is crucial.
I've never had a bad run-in with a park ranger. Once they came to my campsite at Algonquin to check up on us, for example, make sure we had a reservation and weren't doing anything stupid, but they weren't unpolite or unreasonable, and I actually appreciate that they do things like that because there are too many tards out there chopping down live trees and camping in someone else's spot.
What? Are you in North Korea?
Doesn't know about going deep in a woods, doesn't know about going way off the trail, doesn't know about stealth camping, doesn't know about the tunnels, doesn't know about the caves, backpacking for weeks or even months on end, hiking trails that span states and the entire country, hidden from rangers but within the confines of the law. Even if you run into rangers, you aren't breaking any laws, can fish and hunt and grill meat on campfires with coals, doesn't even leave smoke, hidden shelters as well.
Fantasizes about all this stuff in his head, but since he never actually goes /out/, he doesn't realize how unrealistic most of this actually is.
I have literally done these things. Do not care if you believe me. Do you think it is strange that someone who posts on a forum for doing outdoors stuff is an enthusiast of the outdoors for many years? Even as a kid, I was camping and hunting and fishing. It's not that hard to go on a multi-week or even multi-month camping trip if you are decently physically fit and competent at survival backpacking. Canoes or kayaks just allow you to go faster and farther. I live out in the country, so I am already out in nature anyways. I've also done this while traveling across the country. not just long backpacking trips in one part of the country, as well as stumbling upon caves, not to mention people who tunnel hidden shelters that are completely hidden from the outside when you are inside and sleeping, or inside and waiting for a deer to walk by so you can pop up and shoot it from the blind.
Yeah, bro, let me just quit my job and go camp in a woods or hike across the country for months on end. Must be nice having zero responsibilities in your life.
Yes, it is.
We don't have Forest Jannies here, but did have an encounter with the police. I was out with a bunch of friends. We had a bong in the woods and a campfire going by the river with some beers and cider. Fortunately, our friend had gone along the track into town and had spotted the police coming our way, so we hid the bong and tried to mask the smell with deodorant and aftershave. Turns out they were checking the area because some kids had come the weekend before and left a ton of litter. I am pretty good at talking to the police and just pointed out our bin bag full of litter and said we are cleaning up after ourselves. They said have a good night and left us alone for the rest of the night. The only other encounter was this gilly prick who told us to move our tent so he could drive his 4x4 to the river instead of parking 1 meter away or driving the other way around.
Why do game wardens spend so much tax dollars on the operator equipment just so they can LARP as actual cops who are LARPing as Army Rangers?
In the western states, national parks are where a lot of bad things happen. Bodies get dumped there. Drugs get manufactured there. People hide out there when they have serious warrants. Psychos camp out there. Homeless squatters can wreck whole areas. Colorado, California, Washington, and Oregon are most affected. Presumably these problems exist in other parts of the country too, to different degrees. If I was out there alone with just a radio, you'd best believe I'm staying strapped to the teeth.
Here in the southeast, it's mostly drunk rednecks with guns, meth labs and grow ops, and suspicious activity going through parks and waterways. Mostly. Game wardens are usually more operator than park rangers because of drunk hunters, but they all have the same shit in their trucks.
I would also think that a big benefit of being down there in such tight quarters is more evidence of people coming and going, as well as having a better idea of who is who. Smaller populations and more verifiable Americans. Seems less likely you'd stumble upon cartel boys digging holes in the desert.
There's a lot of legitimate traffic that hides illicit activities. Figure one ranger or warden for a 50-mile stretch of valley and hundreds going through the area every week in peak season.
For some reason, everyone is seething in the responses, but the real reason every cop and forest Janny is armed to the death is because we live in an actual police state, and the only thing stopping Big Daddy government from setting up cameras with facial recognition software on every street corner and on every other tree in every national park is just the raw size and innately chaotic nature of America. SWAT and increasingly militarized police agencies would be totally ridiculous in a real civilized society like Iceland, for example. But you live in the pseudo-third world nation of America. As things get harder for the government to control, the force they use will become more clumsy and extreme. Sad but true, this trend will only get worse.
Early plague times. Go hiking on native land with girlfriend after a wildfire because I want to see what it looks like. Forest Janny stops me on my way up the forest road, asks me where I'm going. Tell the truth, we're going to go check it out. Starts getting all huffy with me. Lean back in my seat and he takes a look at my girlfriend, asks where we're from. I tell the truth. My girlfriend says she's from the local Indian reservation like I instructed her to do if we got stopped. Janny narrows his eyes at me and then tells me to be careful, which is Forest Janny language for go screw yourself. My face, when my girlfriend was Mexican the entire time.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.